Councilmember Arroyo and Councilmember Burgell are absent tonight.
All right, would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Pam, I would like to make a slight change to the agenda and move the presentation from the city manager's report up to mayor's presentation, just to let you know that that is going to happen. And then I will move on to report of closed session.
No action to report out of closed session.
Thank you very much. All right, so now it is time for mayor's announcements, and we get to start the new year with a new city manager. So at this time, I would like to invite Dean Lauder and his wife Wendy to come up, and I will give him the oath of office. Or he'll take the oath of office. That's what will happen. Oh, you got to get down in the position. Sure?
Just want the best seat in the house.
Thank you very much.
See, I listen.
So I, Dean R. Lauder,
I, Dean R. Lauder,
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That's long.
do solemnly swear that I will support and affirm the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the State of California
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
to the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the State of California
And the Charter of the City of Eureka.
and the Charter of the City of Eureka.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter
I will well
and
faithfully execute the duties upon which I am to enter
in the capacity of City Manager of the City of Eureka.
in the capacity of City Manager for the City of Eureka.
I think that's official now.
It is.
Thank you. Welcome to the city.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Oh, wait. And Pam, we gotta get pictures. Are you photobombing us, Austin?
I don't know what to
I
do.
hope so. Please do. All right. All right.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. How exciting. Next, I would like to invite Florence Parks up for a proclamation for National Mentoring Month. And I will read this proclamation. Whereas January is National Mentoring Month and provides an opportunity to raise community awareness of the importance of mentoring and recognize the efforts of mentoring programs, mentors, and their mentees. And whereas Big Brothers Big Sisters of the North Coast celebrates 51 years of service to over 4,000 youth in Humboldt County who have needed and wanted mentors. And whereas the future of Eureka rests on the success of its children and youth. And whereas a mentor is caring, consistent presence who devote time to young person to help develop personal strength and achieve their potential through a structured and trusting relationship. And whereas quality mentoring encourages positive choices, promotes self-esteem, supports academic achievement, and introduces young people to new ideas. And whereas research shows that young people who are matched with a caring adult through a quality mentoring program are 46% less likely to use illegal drugs, 27% less likely to start drinking, 52% less likely to skip school, and are more trusting of their parents and guardians. And whereas youth development experts agree that mentoring is critical to the social, emotional, and cognitive development of youth, helping them navigate the path to adulthood more successfully. And whereas our community has a number of individuals, teachers, community volunteers, and so many others who support the mentoring movement and work selflessly to improve our children's odds for success. And whereas we appreciate all the efforts and past and present local heroes saying thank you for supporting children facing challenging circumstances. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Susan Seaman, on behalf of the Eureka City Council, do hereby proclaim January 2020 as National Mentoring Month and encourages all citizens of Eureka to promote the creation and expansion of quality mentoring programs to equip young people with the tools needed to lead healthy and productive lives, and for the residents of Eureka to honor the role models in their lives by becoming mentors to youth in the community.
Thank you so very much, Mayor Susan Seaman, and all council members, and our new city manager. We're so excited to be part of the vehicle that acknowledges National Mentoring Month. We know that at Big Brothers Big Sisters that we're not the only programs that are doing mentoring. Our teachers are mentors. Oftentimes there's informal mentoring relationships, and also there are programs that are in faith-based programs as well as throughout our community that help and serve our youth. But mentoring is so essential in every one of those programs. And so we're so excited to be able to acknowledge this time where we get to bring visibility and awareness to how integral mentoring is and necessary it is for our community. We also have the honor and privilege to be in a community where so many people are stepping up to become mentors, and so many people are dedicating their time and energies to our youth. Including this year, we start a new relationship with our Eureka Police Department, where they are starting our Bigs with Badges program. This year, we're piloting a new program together, and excited about that honor. And also working with big agencies in our community. And if there is a business that wants to join with us, we would love to come and promote and talk to your employees about the opportunity to mentor, because it is important. We cannot do this effort without each and every one of in the community that stands up. But I do want to bring acknowledgement to the most important part of our alignment, because it's really the partnership that we have with our mentors, the volunteers that spend countless hours every day to spend time with their young person. We ask for 2 hours a week for a year commitment, and there are those that go beyond that commitment, and we really want a lifetime commitment. But there is someone here that's been doing this work with us, aligned with us, since Mayor Seaman was matched on October 17th of 2015. So almost 5 years, we're 4.5 years. She's been matched with her mentee, Marissa. So we wanted to acknowledge your commitment, not only with you coming alongside us as mayor, but also you taking the initiative to dedicate your own time and your family time and all that you do for our community. We are so excited to be working with you and our community. Thank you.
I think I've said it probably a few times up here. It is a really, it's such a great thing to do, and it is important, and it feels good, and it matters. And what they do at Big Brothers Big Sisters on such a small amount of money is extraordinary. Florence has been here like a year, and already we've seen just so much exciting stuff happening with the program. So if you've ever thought about being a big, I highly recommend it. Thank you, guys. Next, we have a couple of presentations tonight, and I'm going to invite first, we're going to move from the city manager's report, the CSET team, and a report from our Eureka Police Department team to hear how they've been doing, because it's pretty wonderful. So I'm glad we get to do this when everybody is still here to hear what's been going on. So we are inviting up Officer LaFrance or Chief Watson, or Sergeant LaFrance, I'm sorry.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. You know, it seems today that the roles of law enforcement are continually expanding. They're requiring more and more from us as the needs in our community change. And when there's no one else to send, who do they send? They send your police officers. And while we're still primarily law enforcers, it's what we're sworn and expected to do, today we're also so much more. And I'm real happy to introduce you tonight to Sergeant Leonard LaFrance, who is in charge of our new CSET team, the Community Safety Engagement Team. They were founded in July of 2018, so this January marks their 18 months, and I think nowhere else is it more illustrative of what I'm talking about with what your law enforcement officers have to do today. It seems that we have a society, a country that expects us to be all things to all people, often unrealistically. They want their warriors, they want their guardians, they want us to be counselors and educators. They want us to be priests, social workers, and I think magicians to solve the problems that are there. And we do our best. I'm very proud. So without further ado, I'll introduce Sergeant LaFrance, who will give you an update on our CSET team. Thank you for your time.
Addiction, mental health.
Okay, PowerPoint should roll right into it. So I figure out how to finally do it after a couple of years. So. I know. This song.
About that, I just want to say, I think I get more messages about Sergeant LaFrance on this out there in the community helping people. It's really impressive. So we'll just start with that.
Okay. Well, it's usually not me. It's usually the guys who work with me, because I just go to a lot of meetings. That's really what I do nowadays.
Well, your name is the one then that represents it, because your name comes up a lot.
So good afternoon. Thanks for having us on the 18-month update on CSET. We're going to share a lot of numbers tonight, go over a general philosophy of the unit, general introduction in case people missed it last year. But again, we are the CSET, so Community Safety Enhancement. We're going to eventually transition over to engagement, which is much more fitting for what we're doing. So our mission statement, if you come into our office at EPD, you'll see this hanging on our walls. It's important to us. We want our officers to know within the unit what the mission is every single day. And so our mission is to proactively address quality of life, crime and disorder problems in Old Town, along the waterfront and city parks, while developing strategies to ultimately improve upon or eliminate these issues. We're looking at long-term solutions in certain designated areas. So development of CSET, again, it developed July 1st of 2018. The unit was developed because we have the 6.5 miles of beautiful trail. If you haven't seen the trails, please come out. Often people don't say very nice things about it. They haven't been there, obviously, because it's very, very beautiful. It's very nice. Go check it out. Please do. Community services did a lot of investment, improvement to parks and trails, and obviously ongoing improvements made throughout Old Town. And the need to maintain and control and order in these locations is very problematic. And so for our patrol units, it's very difficult to cover these areas. We needed a specialized approach or a more focused approach. We recognize the ongoing crime, disorder, and quality of life in specific locations, Old Town, waterfront trails, and parks. And we recognize the need again to focus on these issues and long-term solutions. You'll see long-term solutions mentioned quite a bit. So our current staffing level, our staffing level is we're supposed to be at one sergeant, that's me. We have one missed officer, who is Officer Swanson, one Old Town officer, who is Officer Ross, 2 Park and Waterfront Rangers, Goodale and Gagnon. We have 1 substance abuse counselor, she's an LCSW, also Tina Garzon, 1 homeless liaison, and 2 outreach workers through the Uplift program. Currently, our homeless liaison position is vacant, and we have 1 vacancy with our HOW worker. So let's talk about funding. So I am funded through EPD's budget. Our missed officer comes through Measure Z and partially through EPD. Old Town is through EPD. We have 1 of the park rangers is through EPD, the other is through Measure Z. And the LCSW is actually a volunteer for us. She works about 4 to 6 hours a week with us. But she's a great reference for us. She's retired from mental health, vast knowledge, awesome person. Homeless liaison, when we fill it, it's funded by Measure Z. And our outreach workers, 1 is Measure Z, 1 is community services. Miles found money somewhere. He does that a lot. And so we obviously partner with the county with their MISS team, which is Mobile Intervention and Services team. It was implemented in 2015. And it's a collaboration between EPD and DHHS. Even though we often refer with MIST with EPD, really CSET and EPD is much bigger than the MIST program itself. And we'll go into that a little bit. MIST works with chronically homeless who have severe mental illness causing a lot of calls for service. That's who they work with. And they only focus on a top 10 list. So where CSET, we have whatever we want to work on, we will work. But MIST has a top 10 priority list. That's all that team works on with the county. So our areas of responsibility, again, we cover Old Town, the waterfront, our trails, and our parks. And so some philosophies we'll go through here of the unit. So a big thing for us is homelessness is not a crime. However, criminal behavior is. If you're out there dealing drugs, selling drugs, using drugs openly in public, we're going to come arrest you and talk to you about services. But again, we're going after behavior, not the fact that someone's homeless. Again, criminal behavior and causes behind crime. We want to know what's causing this crime. Balance accountability with compassion while trying to address the underlying causes. So 2 things we often say is compassion, accountability. We need both. We have to balance both. It's very, very difficult sometimes with some of our folks, but again, we're trying to constantly balance. Some days we're much more accountability than compassion. Some days we're flip-flopped in outreach. It's very difficult. We want to reach people in their own environment, reach them where they are, not where we want them to be. So if we ask these folks to make a meeting or an appointment at a certain time, most won't make it because often they're addicted, alcohol, drugs, whatever, mental illness. They don't have a sense of time or even a clock to watch time. So we have to go meet them where they are. One-size-fits-all approach does not work. If we think of grabbing a group of people and throwing them into one giant box to fix a problem, we are completely wrong. There's many ways to solve a problem. It's 360. Everyone's individual, different complexity with them, uniqueness. So we have to have very, very, very different approaches for each person. Cut the red tape. This is a big one for us. I shouldn't, like Officer Swanson, if he wants to take someone to waterfront recovery, he shouldn't have to call me. I don't have to call my captain to get them there. He just goes there. Cut the red tape. You'll see other organizations, they have to call lots of people to make things happen. We don't have time. Sometimes we have a very small window of opportunity, and we push forward through that. So some of our strategies that we use, get high visibility, proactivity, and presence. You'll see us out and about, especially on the trails in Old Town. You'll see us walking in Old Town. I try to walk there every day when I'm on duty, and then Officer Ross, when he's on duty, he walks around Old Town. So you will see us, say hi to us, we're friendly. We want to build relationships and partnerships with everyone in the community, including those in the homeless community, government, social service providers, businesses, everybody, because everyone matters. Everyone's valued to us. We want to identify locations and individuals causing a lot of problems for us. So we're going to hotspot police certain areas. We know that certain areas are causing problems. We're going to focus on those. If there's a key player there that's dealing drugs, we're going to focus on that person. Again, long-term solutions to address criminal quality of life issues using accountability and outreach. And we want to connect homeless individuals to resources. It doesn't matter if it's public, private, nonprofit, faith-based, we don't care. Again, there's many, many solutions to these problems because these individuals are very complex. We will try anything we can. And we do a lot of bridging and filling gaps. A lot of service gaps within various service providers. We really try to fill those gaps. So even if we take someone to jail, we still want to connect them to resources. So if we do arrest people, we will offer them services. We have picked up people from jail before when they get released and brought them immediately to a recovery center. We utilize CSET, so crime prevention through environmental design. We talk with businesses if they're having ongoing issues. We'll talk about different solutions they can use to actually stop those issues. And then we work closely with Uplift. Uplift's our sibling unit. I talked to Jeff probably more than he wants, but I talked to him a lot during the daytime. So talked to him like 3 or 4 times today. So it's 2019, here's some stats for you. So again, we started in July 1st of 2018. So we have some comparison stats. I can't compare to all 2018, 2019 because we didn't exist part of the year. So what I did is I pulled stats from July to December 2018 compared to July to December 2019. So it's 6 months comparisons. So overall for 2019, so self-initiated activity just from CSET, we did 5,680 self-initiated contacts. And that could be just being out on foot at Free Meal, out on foot in Old Town, contacting individuals wherever, but 5,680. It's actually trending upwards from where we were in 2018. Calls for service, we only went to 965 calls CSET alone. Again, our objective is to be proactive. So really primarily the only officer responding to calls is Officer Ross in Old Town. However, in this time period, our calls to Old Town with Officer Ross was down by 42%. So we know that proactivity reduces calls. We see it through our stats. So total about 6,645 overall contacts and 85.5% proactive. And across the board, since we started CSET, we've been about 85% proactive versus reactive policing. And again, our intention is to be proactive. So that's a good thing. So total, last year we made 1,124 arrests. That was actually a downward trend, which is interesting because our contacts are up, but our arrests are slightly down. Our weapons seized has been up to 62 last year. Our meth located was 144.6 grams or 5.1 ounces. Again, we're not a drug unit. We just encounter a lot of people with drugs. That's been about stabilized in comparison. Same with loaded syringes, which we find quite a bit. That's actually trending upwards. Heroin, about 4 ounces last year, that's trending downwards. And our loaded syringes for heroin is also going downward. So I know we talk a lot about opioids, but again, we see a lot more meth in the streets than we do heroin. And I think even the last public health reasons for death was I think alcohol and meth are actually higher than opioids. So whenever we encounter large encampments on public property, we're talking massive places or massive encampments causing messes, we tag property per the EMC code. So we're doing a much better job in 2019 tagging. We tag, if it's property, we tag it. This way, let them notice, hey, I can't be here, it's time to move along, grab your property. However, on the flip side, we often do outreach with these folks. We do provide service cards with them. If they are there, we talk with them, try to get them from that spot actually into housing instead of just moving from one spot to another. We don't want to create more work for ourselves. The good news is our abandoned camps we're dismantling are down to 80 last year. So tagging's up, dismantling is down. What we're finding is that we're building relationships with folks and we're able to get compliance. So they're actually removing their stuff with them, their trash with them, and actually moving along themselves, just out of compliance. Some of our especially Ranger Gagnon, he works with McDonald's who gets gift cards, and often he'll get compliance from folks by having gift cards and getting trash picked up at locations, or their own trash at their own encampments. So it's really about connection and relationships with these folks. We tagged about 49 autos last year, which is down again. That's probably because the abatement team is doing a fantastic job. And garbage collected, this is a big one for us because we picked a lot of garbage, 54,430 pounds last year. It's trending downwards. We're seeing a lot less camps, a lot less trash. So 5150 holds for mental health. So if we do have a call for service for patrol, we are often jumping those for patrol to handle, and we did 87 5150 holds last year. Those are people in crisis that needed time and attention. This unit has that, and so we'll actually go out and address those. We've more than doubled our numbers of holds from the trend, so we're going way up with those. Again, it helps us with folks in crisis need that time and need those resources, and we often bring those with us. This is a big one for us, substance abuse treatment. 74 handoffs last year to Waterfront HRC Crossroads, 74. That's a lot. That's a lot. And that's not just, drop them off, it's actually walk them in the door, hand them off to staff. And then that's we're counting as a handoff. Obviously, our guys do a lot of upfront work to try to figure out housing after the plan, employment. They try to work on issues also besides just the treatment. But that's really gone up. We did 8 our first 6 months, 8 in 2018. We did 74 last year. That's big. So it's 82 total since the inception of CSET. And these are individuals that can be very, very difficult, don't usually want to go to treatment, but they're often coming to us actually to headquarters and saying, hey, I'm ready to go to treatment now. And they're asking for our guys personally to take them there. So that's good. And so our missed referrals, so with our missed team, what happens, they operate off a top 10 list, and we fill out a matrix with some numbers, we do some math, and they get points to get on this missed list. Our referrals are down because the list we've hit now with our missed team is pretty difficult list to work with. They're not really moving much, and so our referrals are way down. And again, we don't track numbers for housing, employment, handoff to other services, or assists with other partners. And we do a lot of different stuff besides just handoffs to treatment centers. It's amazing sometimes what these guys are doing. Right now, the guys are working on getting a gentleman over to a treatment center in Lancaster who's been a very hard fit for 2 months. They're sitting in a hotel right now with him, who assisted by Betty, which is awesome. He has a plane ticket, and so we're going to get him to the airport on time tomorrow to make the flight to hand him off to the staff down there at the facility. And that was a gentleman who cost about $200,000 last year to the taxpayers in medical bills and arrest. A lot of arrests last year and medical bills. So our treatment center funding is coming out of Measure Z part of the year, and then otherwise Connie Beck has provided money for us from DHHS. To let you know, we burned through $83,000 of Measure Z funding in 6 months for treatment centers. So it's a blessing that Connie was able to give us additional money to not only to detox, but also to residential at Waterfront, HRC, and Crossroads. And we're just waiting for Drug Medi-Cal to take over whenever that's going to happen. So just a quick case study. So St. Vincent de Paul dining facility is where we had our service fair this year. Kind of want to focus on this real quick. So St. Vincent's is based on our survey that we did in 2018. It services about 78% of the homeless population based on our survey. So 80% of the homeless use free meal facility. So this is a hopping place. Leslie's been there. It's a hopping place. It's very busy, a lot of services down there between St. Joseph's Resources, DHHS, numerous resources. Betty Showers are down there. It's a very, very busy place. It's a center for resources for homeless in Eureka. Very vital place. So of our population, also based on our survey, 70% have addiction issues and 57% self-reported having mental health issues. My opinion, based on what I do every single day, those numbers are higher, probably about 80 and 80 or 90 and 90% co-occurring would be my guess. So it's a very, very difficult population. Things down at Free Meal can get very, very chaotic, or it had been in the past, because you have a lot of folks that have irrational behavior, and how do you manage that? So once let me click it back here. Once CSET came into being, we recognized that as a significant location for us to kind of stabilize, because we figured if we stabilize, Free Meal will help also stabilize the neighborhoods and a lot of Old Town. So we really partner with their staff members, who now treat us like their family members. If there's an issue, they call us. We check in every day with them. We're out on foot every day there. We've built a very good relationship with the board members, especially Bob Santelli, who's phenomenal. And so I'll show you some numbers here. So I have to go back to January to June of 2018, CSET did not exist. January to June of 2019, we did exist. So before CSET, we had 96 calls in 6 months, so about 200 calls a year down there. After CSET came into being, we cut it down to about 2/3 of the calls. So just mere presence. However, our self-initiated down at Free Meal, when CSET did not exist, was 61 self-initiated contacts. When CSET came into being, it was 213 in 6 months. We're there a lot, because also that's where the people are. So these are with CSET in existence, July to December 2018, and the match on 2019. Calls for service are still around 40. That might be our magical number, I don't know. And our self-initiated is still way above 200, which we need to be. It may seem like a lot of time for officers to be there, but again, stabilize this. I think we really stabilize a lot of Old Town. It's not perfect, but again, it stabilizes. We're showing that with our numbers, reduced calls for service. So this is from Brittany Powell, our crime analyst. 72% decrease in violent-related crimes or calls for service, 71% decrease in property-related calls for service, and 63% reduction in quality of life-related calls for service. Those are important for us. So with CSET, we really look at partnerships. We really need everyone involved. We need everyone we can work with. And so some of our biggest teams, I'll go over here, is obviously MIST with the county, St. Vincent de Paul, free meals, what's called in the street. Here's the Eureka Rescue Mission doing cleanup with Uplift and with us. Of course, Uplift is awesome to work with. Waterfront Recovery is a huge partner for us. And then, of course, Betty Chin, who's phenomenal. And the Santa Claus, we usually have a Santa Claus present for Betty during Christmas. And so it's something the guys often enjoy. So at first they don't, but then they do. So these are only a few. However, since I put this initial slide up, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to start listing the partners we work with just for fun of it. And so I started making a list. And I don't think I got everybody because I think there's a lot more. But these are the primary ones that we have. So I'm not going to go through all of them. But those are the ones we really, at CSET, really works with partners with. And so for us, partnership is vital because everyone has a different angle to address an issue we have. Just an example, like AA, we actually will pick up our folks in the street, and if they want to go to AA, we actually drop them off at AA meetings. Sounds kind of weird, but again, it's different solutions to problems. So we have a lot of different partners to work with. And obviously, we work with the county a lot. You can see all these county partners. If the county encounters an issue, they usually call CSET, and we can help them address an issue because we have time, again, to focus, and we're very problem-solve orientated. So we want to connect with all community members. That's really important for us, not just people living in houses or homeless. We want to talk to everybody, businesses, everyone involved. So if you guys remember this photo of Ranger Gagnon, this went pretty viral on Facebook. He saw two kids on the trail riding bikes with their helmets on. So he actually had gift cards again from McDonald's to hand out to him. They posted a picture for him. That's us down at Eureka Rescue Mission back in 2018 at Thanksgiving. Addicts Among Us, you guys all got a DVD from Laura, the producer, gave it to me to give to you guys. If you haven't seen it yet, please view it. It's available if you Google Addicts Among Us Keat. You will find the link. It's a very, very well done, very raw look at ACEs, homelessness and addiction in Humboldt County. Very well done. And we were part of that documentary. This is our folks at an ice cream event at Jefferson with Captain O'Neill and Ranger Goodale. And then, of course, Swanton and Ross doing what they do best is kind of acting goofy. And then if you Talk Shop, occasionally we're on Talk Shop on the radio. So this is Dennis on Talk Shop, not in uniform. And we really believe at one person at a time. If I had to look at the entire population I have to work with, I'd probably quit my job. So I have to really break it down and say, hey, I can deal with one person right now, two people right now. That's all I have time for or energy. But again, break it down, individualized, and have that approach. Otherwise, it's very, very overwhelming. So if here's, I think actually that's a chief doing a raffle down at Free Meal during the service fair. Those are guys serving actually inside of Free Meal. If you go down there, you often see us in the kitchen. Again, we're treated like family. You may occasionally find us scrubbing a dish or two or serving or helping with food or whatever. But we're really accepted as family. This is not a stage photo. This is actually a real photo of Officer Swanson talking to a female who is about 19 at the time. Long history story. We're trying to work with her, but again, this is really connection. Is sitting down. Again, we have ways to resolve our safety for ourselves, but again, this really gets connection with folks. Is being on their level, treating them like they're human beings, and actually listening to them. And in the middle here is Larry Alexander, who's our homeless outreach worker with Uplift, and then Mary Price, who you guys gave a proclamation to not too long ago, and she really is an angel in our city. She does a great job at Free Meal. Can we hit play on this, or can I? If you slide down.
My name's Dennis Gagnon. I'm one of the Eureka City Park Rangers. I'm part of the Community Safety Enhancement Team that deals primarily with folks that are caught in the cycles of addiction, mental health, and homelessness. Part of the mission of CSET is kind of summed up in 3 words. It's accountability, it's engagement, and it's ownership. What makes my job so unique and probably one of the most diverse within the department is that we're really looking for creative ways to face old problems. Rather than simply taking people to jail on every contact, sometimes we're just talking with folks. We're more in many ways like the old school beat officer than more traditional law enforcement. The idea is not just to build trust, it's to build relationships. Getting to know people on a first-name basis, getting out of the vehicle or being on foot and shaking hands, letting people tell you stories, trying to understand where they've come from, because once we can do that, once we can build those relationships and understand where this person is coming from and how they got there, we can help them find their way back, whether that's back to family, back to sobriety, back to mental health, or back to housing.
If you haven't seen it before, it's a very good, very well done video. So short, sweet, but Ranger Gagnon really has a good understanding of what CSET stands for. So we really want to look at underlying causes of what's causing crime in our city, especially with our homeless population. So obviously mental illness is one of them, addiction and trauma. So I call it the onion. So the top of the onion is symptoms. We're seeing the crime, we're seeing the behavior. You peel back the onion a little bit, you're seeing mental illness, peel back a little, or substance use or mental illness, peel back further and further and further, you're gonna see trauma probably at the very core of that onion. And so we're trying to get to the core and actually address the core, which in long-term solves the crime. And I always like this, we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. So we do a lot of enforcement actions, that's needed to maintain order in society. But again, we need to help people while maintaining order. But we have to find out what's the cause they're falling in. Now, where do we go from here? So 2020, we are looking at doing another homeless survey. Haven't started on the project. It's on my list of many things to do. But again, we do want to get good data again to see approximately numbers. We can take those numbers, and we also have numbers from St. Vincent de Paul's dining facility. We can compare numbers and actually get a very good solid number on how many homeless we actually have in the city of Eureka. It's just tomorrow I meet about this, the Law Enforcement Alternative Diversion Program. So the LEAD program, I've been working on this with the chief for about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So in theory, we're going to pilot it in end of the January or February of this year. So it's a partnership between EPD and Uplift. We're going to divert individuals from criminal justice, the court system, to resources. So if you get a ticket for littering, we can offer, hey, here's an option for you to go with a program. Obviously the ticket still exists, but they sign up for the program, they make dates, they have a form planned for them for community service hours, or make a mental health appointment, or go to a job opportunity, or go to Pathway to Payday, some kind of opportunity. So it's really moving them from criminal justice to resources, which improves their lives and all of our lives and the community in whole. And again, it follows the principles of accountability balanced with compassion and outreach. So we're having both. If they still want to continue committing those crimes, we have accountability. However, there's a better way. We'd much prefer the better way. We have been talking about, we call it a micro uplift program, about doing some trash collection with some of our homeless individuals that aren't signed up for uplift yet. It's still very, very beginning phases of that, but we're looking at some kind of program like that. And then really in the end, anything's possible for us. It really is. There's a lot of opportunity for us, a lot of partnerships to work, but it's really endless. And again, there's no one solution to what we're doing. There's many, many all around us. And any questions you guys have, happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah, you can make a comment. Councilman Allison first.
I just want to thank you guys for all that you do for the community, and I really appreciate that your approach does not have red tape, because I see a lot of times that can be problematic in helping give people the help they need in a timely fashion. And so I just want to say thank you and keep up the great work. You're really important in this community.
Councilmember Mesner.
Yeah, so I'm just really proud of this team. It's been an amazing thing, and I'm so glad to be on the council when this got put into place, and being a part of seeing the transformation that's happened, particularly in Old Town and around the areas that were some major problems in our area. And so we're very thankful for that, and what you guys not only have done but expanded. You've kept the big picture and continued to look for more ways to work with people and out of the box, and that's pretty amazing. I mean, 74 people into treatment in 2019, that's a lot of people, and that are off our streets. So that are getting some help and the help they need. And thank you for just putting this together and helping educate people as well, because I think that's a huge part of it. So thank you. You guys are amazing.
Councilman Castellano.
Again, thanks again. And one thing I've noticed that you spoke to, but I think could be brought out a little more is because you have so much regular contact with people that what I see when I'm down at St. Vincent de Paul is that you're able to catch people when they're kind of ready to make a change, and I think that's something that really those impacts really work, and that's because of your relationships with people. So thank you for that.
And I think it's really great that you got to come in and really show us the fruits of your labor. So often people have this sort of anecdotal idea of what's going on there, but to know that we're constantly making progress and doing it in a way that's compassionate and useful is really helpful. So congratulations to you. I'm really happy that our department recognizes that this is a productive way to address our issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, I would like to invite one of our partners from DHHS, since you mentioned them so often. Connie Lorenzo is here. She's going to be talking about helping Humboldt. She's from the Department of Employment, ETD.
Employment Training Division, yeah. Thanks. And I also have Melissa Furby with me tonight. So I have to say, watching that last presentation actually felt somewhat familiar because we work with a lot of the same clients. And so you'll see that in some of what we have to show you tonight. So Mayor Seaman and council members, thanks for having us. I appreciate the time to tell you about our program and some what the county's been up to. So I'm Connie Lorenzo, the Senior Program Manager for the Employment and Training Division. And before we get into helping Humboldt specifically, I did want to give you some feedback and understanding of what Employment Training Division is and who we are. We've done a lot of different things over the years, so just who we are at this moment in time. So ETD, or Employment Training Division, includes 27 staff and provides workforce services to 6 county programs. We work largely with individuals receiving social service benefits, so we work with CalWorks, General Relief, CalFresh recipients, transitional age youth, and we also work with probation and state parole. So all of those things are under our purview to serve, and it's been a way of economizing workforce services to center under one division and not have everyone reproduce that throughout. Approximately 27% of our individuals are homeless, and nearly all of them are low income and have some significant or one or more barriers to work. So we're working with the sort of the toughest of the tough to serve at this point. Particularly too with unemployment as low as it's been for so long, who is left unemployed are people who really need some real support to get back to work. This is how the Employment and Training Division is organized. We have an Employment Resource Center down at the Coster campus of DHHS. We have classrooms, computer labs, and professional vocational counselors on site. We do career planning, goal setting, job readiness, and job search supports of all levels. We have a business service team. That team is actually working with wage subsidy programs. They're helping place people into jobs, and we also are working with employers themselves, and we do some HR work with employers. The Humboldt Second Chance program is the Justice Involved program that works with probation and state parole. We just got a new influx of funding for that from the state through their prison to employment funds, so we're going to be able to lift that back up a bit. It's kind of the funding there has gone up and down, and so it rises and lowers in how many people we can serve. So we'll be reaching out to probation and interacting again a little more there. CalFresh Employment and Training is for CalFresh recipients, people getting, food benefits through the county. And then Helping Humboldt, which we're here to talk about more tonight. It's a workforce empowerment program for general relief and other DHHS participants needing significant preparation to get back to work. Before we move to the Helping Humboldt, I wanted to do, where's the little, okay. You're hiding it. No. Here's the overall outcomes this last program year for Employment Training Division. We served over 1,200 individuals, and then many of our programs are mandated programs, so we're not necessarily having people come to us willingly, which is a challenge to engage them. But we do see a 7.5% average completion rate across the 5 programs that are mandated for people to participate in. And that's a pretty high rate, actually, for individuals coming through some of our programs. We made 134 subsidized wage placements, people into work experience or on-the-job training placements with local employers. We served 80 employers, and they participated, many of those, in that subsidized wage program. 243 individuals entered employment, and if you look at our overall numbers, that's a 39% average employment rate. Many of our people, we may only touch once or twice, and then those who get fully engaged, we are generally more successful with. Yes, your turn.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more
Go ahead.
Do you-
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
about Helping Humboldt program, a little bit about the logistics of how we work. It was started in August of 2018, as Connie said, an employment empowerment program, and serves clients needing substantial supports to get back to work. The Helping Humboldt team consists of 5 staff. We have 2 work crew leaders who go out into the community and do various community service projects and lead our crews. And then we have 2 vocational counselors and myself, the program coordinator. And how the program is structured overall, we have 2 main components. We have a daily supervised work crew assignments, and we have a job search element. So our mornings are spent in work crew, where folks go out in the community, and then our afternoons are spent in our computer lab with a focused job search efforts. We also offer 2 days a week job readiness and retention workshops, where we focus on topics that help prepare individuals for work. And we have an intensive case management piece that helps people identify goals for themselves, as well as how to execute those goals. And then we have a retention support program that is offered for folks that do find employment for 90 days after they secure employment to help keep them employed. We have what we call Feedback Fridays, and those were established to offer opportunities for participants to give and provide feedback for how the program's working, what successes have happened with folks during that week, what challenges they may have faced, what opportunities within the program could be enhanced. And we really feel it provides a buy-in for folks to really be able to offer their opinions on what could be changed, and has really, I think, helped the program succeed. A lot of people have a lot of great suggestions, which is wonderful. And then we also offer assistance with basic education, GED, high school diploma assistance, and general computer skill classes too. Oh, I hope this is a video. I hope it's a video. Okay.
Do we need to push a button?
Oh, yeah, because we're not seeing the little arrow on screen.
So here's a quick video of one of our participants who came through our program. And we'd love to have many more here, but some are working, some are doing other
My name is
things.
Selena Rani. I work with Pacific Seafood, and I'm a breaker. So I come to work, and then we wait for the oysters to come. They come down on a line, and then we grab them off the line, and we break them all apart.
My name is Stephanie Waterworth. I'm the Human Resources Manager. I work for Pacific Seafood. We started meeting with folks that were just stepping back into the workforce, and so that's how I ended up finding Selena.
I came from like a really hard life of drugs, and I just decided I wanted to do better for myself. The first day of helping Humboldt was a little hard. I think my attitude was rather crappy. I wasn't quite used to it, and helping Humboldt was, they're just there. I never had a resume or anything else like that, and I didn't even know how to make one. And by the time I was done there, I have a resume. I learned how to make one. I learned the joy of helping people, you know what I mean? Just to help them. Helping Humboldt helped me out so much.
It's worked wonders. I mean, she's thriving in everything she's doing, you know, so it's definitely made a big difference in her life. I'm excited to watch her blossom and grow even more.
I definitely believe that people deserve a second chance, and this program, Helping Humboldt, it just really gives you that second chance.
So real quick, just my takeaway from working with Helping Humboldt thus far. Most of the folks that come to us and are on some sort of a work track and are focused in some way, shape, or form want to work. There's a huge misconception in our community that that's not the case, but it just, from what I see every day, is not true. Just the other day, I heard one of our vocational counselors tell a participant who recently finished their required hours, and they showed up the next day to continue to work and volunteer with us, that they were so proud of them coming in despite the fact that they had finished their hours. And the person said, you know, one of the worst things about being unemployed is not having a daily schedule and a purpose. And I come here to create that and to do something meaningful when I'm not working at this time. I just thought that was really awesome. So our response from Helping Humboldt participants has been very positive. These are a few quotes that we have from folks that reflect this. I'll give you a few minutes or a few seconds, not a few minutes, to check those out. Almost daily, we see people's confidence begin to grow, often within the first few hours of being within our program. Connie mentioned before, if we can engage them in the very beginning, it really, there's very little that we can't accomplish with them. And truly, helping folks find confidence seems to have had the biggest impact in helping people move forward towards success. This, along with creating a space of hope, especially for folks who have lost both. For instance, the woman who suddenly found herself homeless and was sleeping in the trunk of her car at night for safety, the gentleman with special needs children who became addicted to drugs, fought his way back to sobriety but couldn't gain work yet, the person stuck in generational poverty and welfare, the participants who are just as involved and have not worked at a paying job for years. All of these folks represent folks that we have worked with, and each has their own story of perseverance. And I am humbled to know that Helping Humboldt played a role, big or small, in helping with that process.
Okay. So I think what I really appreciated about what Melissa had to say is what we're all experiencing is these people want to be a part of something constructive, and they do want to work, and they generally just don't know how to get back in the game. You know, they're maybe so far down or have some things to overcome, and this is the type of program that can really help them do that. These are some of our outcomes from the first year. We're a brand new program. A lot went into sort of designing this and organizing it and getting it off the ground. We served 223 participants in the first year. 26% of those individuals were houseless. We have a general relief program where people are given a loan. I don't know if people realize it's not free money. They actually have to pay it back. And if they don't pay it back through work for relief, they actually have, their wages will be garnished in the future. So we are able through this program to give them work for relief, and we paid down $52,000 of general relief debt for our, on behalf of our clients. We saw a 207% increase in general relief client participation. Prior to this program, they were not at all engaging or taking, participating much in employment, which was really only being done through our facilities department, putting them to work on campus. So some sense of maybe why they weren't engaging. It wasn't that, inviting an opportunity. But we've seen huge increase in engagement, and we saw 52 individuals actually enter employment in this year. We like to look at the impact of this, and so I was going to let you go ahead and talk about it, because Melissa's actually out with the team and the crew and knows more about some of the things they're doing.
So we, as the slide indicates, we've had over 1,800 pounds of trash and over 12,000 pounds of green waste removed, 175 hypodermic needles removed, 5 graffiti removals. It's probably increased quite a bit in the last little bit. 389 county cars washed, and 8 general, and this is a little bit older, these aren't up to date quite, but more than 8 community events that we've supported that have included, Redwood Coast Music Festival, Kinetic Sculpture Race. So we've worked with St. Vincent de Paul as well, and helping at their holiday-related meals, Arcata Community Center, and so forth. Some of our regular sites that we go to, besides the special kind of project-related sites, include every week we're at Potawatomi Community Gardens in Arcata, where folks are learning about propagation and landscaping techniques and so forth. We go to Redwood Acres Fairground. Haven't started that this year. It's a really good site for us when the weather gets bad. But last year we painted a good chunk of the grandstand, and we'll be back at it again very soon. And then we spend not every week, but at least a couple times a month with the North Coast Native Plant Society. Some of the other extraordinary kind of opportunities that we've had that aren't listed on here. We've done some intense blackberry removal at Bird Ally X, which is a program of the Humboldt Wildlife Care Center. We've done a lot of events, setup and takedowns for stuff like Coastal Grove Medieval Festival of Courage and Redwood Coast Music Festival. We produced 1,500 laminate emergency handbooks for county staff, which was a pretty big undertaking. So yeah, there is quite a bit of unique things that we're doing as well.
So this, like I said, we're just a little over a year into this program, and we're getting so much attention and interest from the community now that they know we exist and they want, support. So it's hard for us to fit some of it into the calendar these days. But Melissa and her team are doing great. I do want to put a shout out to Julian, one of our work crew leaders, who is has a background in cooking. So they did all the pies. This holiday season was at St. Vincent. Yeah. So they made all the pies.
They taught me how to make ones.
So a lot goes on, and what we're trying to do for these clients is get them into diverse settings, diverse skills, and not just out picking up garbage. It's meant to be a much more in-depth program and really engaging them in the community. The pride they take in being seen doing this work is phenomenal. And, it's just their faces light up when they get thanks. And, the library, which is a site they go to every week, the library just adores them and is so happy to see them. So it really builds their confidence. That's a big key piece of it. The final thing I want to talk about really quickly, and Susan knows about this, is we've had an ambition since the beginning to have another level of this and actually create a social enterprise. And it would allow us to have people who, as they progress and get improvement in work readiness, to still get more skills. So these are actually examples of products that we would maybe try to be producing in a social enterprise setting, so that we could put people into a setting under making wood and garden products in a way that they're learning tool making, they're learning production process. We'd look at getting them actually even a manufacturing certification for production. We're talking to CR about that. So it's just a whole nother level of vocational training and another level of spending time with some of these individuals who really need still more work to get them ready, but to get them some really marketable skills as well. So this is one of the ideas that we have, and some of the products that we made. Those little towers are like vine towers, are 6 and 8 feet tall. So we're really trying to look at maybe products that have some real design element, some real interest, some real quality about them for marketing purposes. So that's still on the back burner. I'm going to be meeting really recently or soon with Uplift. And one of the things I'm considering and looking at is we have 2 programs now doing some of similar type work. And just want to look at what synergy is there or not, how we might cooperate together, and does this second tier make sense for Uplift too, and become an avenue where they could have people graduating to and moving on. So we have scheduled with the Uplift team to meet and look at that, and look at any ways that we might partner to leverage funds, maybe work together to raise funds, and some different things like that. So we'll see what synergy comes of it. But anyway, that's coming. So at this point, if you had any questions or thoughts, we're here to answer.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll have one question.
Yeah.
Any luck finding a place to do your manufacturing?
No.
Is that what you're looking for? So if anybody knows an
Yeah.
ADA compliant manufacturing area, we have somebody who
Yeah, one of our barriers has been we've had 2 warehouse potential spaces, but because we're the county, we're very bound to, really stringent ADA rules, and both of the spaces we couldn't sort that out. It was going to be too costly to upgrade them. So we're still looking for space. Yeah, so thank you, Susan.
Anybody knows?
She
Okay.
knows.
Councilmember Mesner.
I actually might have something for you, but
Oh, okay.
the other thing is just thank you for your work, and I know it was very interesting to come and tour your facility and what you were doing right when you were first starting.
Exactly, yeah.
So fun to see what you've been up to and how that's come along. So, and appreciate you guys. I see you in meetings and stuff too, but just appreciate the work you're doing. And I'm really happy that you mentioned the daily meaningful activity, because it is such a huge piece for the homeless, and that hopelessness leads to homelessness, and we know that. And so just allowing people to care, and know that to feel cared for and have something that they're putting into, and that's what builds their self-esteem, really. And so it's really important for them to have that. So appreciate that. And I really it's been fun to see the work that's been happening in our community and at the county level and in Eureka as well. And just, I'd like to see how that all works in the future with both these programs kind of simultaneously coming along. And clearly there's a reason for it, and we really are all needed, right? And so it takes all of us to input and do something. So really appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's fun to see. I look forward to seeing what happens in the future too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing the last minute change. I think there was a lot of, speaking of synergy between your 2 presentations.
No, I agree.
So
Yeah, I
we're
thought that
getting
was
to the
interesting.
late start for our meeting, but
Yeah.
it was pretty good stuff. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you too.
All righty. All right, so now we have come to public comment period. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that are not on the agenda tonight. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And
Our first speakers are Claudia Cranford, followed by Gary Lewis.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and the new city manager, Mr. Lauder. More than 20 years ago, I joined the Eureka Women's Club, and I'm still glad that I did, because every year I get opportunities to do things for the community that otherwise I wouldn't have a chance to do. One of the things we've been doing for almost 20 years now is the third Sunday in January, we have a waffle breakfast, and every penny that we bring in, we divide up and we give to nonprofit organizations here in Eureka. this year, the recipients are going to be Betty, Sequoia Humane Society, Humboldt Domestic Services. I missed a word somewhere. Violence Services, Humboldt Domestic Violence Services. And every month we spend $200 providing milk to the women and children at the mission and to the lunch facility that St. Vincent's runs, because children need whole milk, not non-fat dried stuff, so that their brains can grow correctly. Tonight I am here to present invitations to the mayor, all the council members, and Mr. Lauder. We thought it would be a nice way for you to get acquainted with our specific community at the Women's Club. There's one ticket for each of you in there. So bring your families and you buy their tickets. There'll be a raffle. There'll be waffles. This is not a pancake breakfast. This is waffles made from scratch, egg dishes, bacon, ham. Everybody's invited. $10 ahead of time, $12.50 for adults at the door. And as I said, every penny that comes in that door will go back out to these 4 nonprofits. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Oh,
Do you know where it is? Sorry.
the Women's Club.
The Women's
It's
Club?
on the written on the
Just
invitation.
The Women's Club is
Oh,
on
I
J
just-
1531 J Street, Eureka.
I just meant for the people watching on TV
Yeah.
who don't know.
1531 J Street. Where's the camera?
Everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good catch, Austin. So
Any other questions?
Good evening. I'm Gary Lewis. I would also love to say that we're very pleased to see our new city manager, Dean Lauder, here. Looking forward to working with him. The other day I received this in the mail. This is a notice of a hearing for a business moving into the neighborhood. I should mention that this is the kind of thing we did not receive when the Needle Exchange Hatcher moved into our neighborhood. No notice, no public hearing. But anyway, getting back to this. This is for a cannabis growing facility. It's not an open to the public sort of thing. It probably will be perfectly good, nice and clean, well regulated, no problem. The only peculiar thing about it is the location. It's 1515 4th. The Needle Exchange is 1522 3rd. They are literally facing each other across the alley, one from the other. Perhaps a somewhat peculiar choice of location. I don't know if anybody actually put any thought into that. Probably will work out fine, might not. But that alleyway is where many of the Hatcher clients sleep if they're going to sleep somewhere at night, and pretty well frequented by drug dealers. Might be a problem for the people that are opening this business. We'll see. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. One other small thing. One of the members of this council recently on a forum complained, not to myself, but to some other people, that they were focusing too much on little problems in the area. Made the comment that essentially what we focus on gets bigger, that what we focus on becomes worse. I have to say, I was not brought up with that philosophy. Focusing on problems is a way to solve problems. Ignoring problems is not a way to solve problems. Anyhow, despite that small philosophical disagreement, I'm looking forward to working with all of you by focusing on problems to help solve them in our community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Harry Wilcox.
He's a hard act to follow. Name's Harry Wilcox. As of the 18th of this month, I've been here 13 years. When I first came to Eureka, driving up 101, I literally thought I had come into a mystical land. So beautiful, so clean, the people friendly, outgoing, involved. Literally, I felt like I'd moved into a whole new world. I'm from New York and New York City, where people don't look you in the eye, they look at your feet. Well, I started coming before this council 4 years ago because I saw the deterioration that started with, I'm sorry to beat the dead horse, but with Hatcher. We've gone through ups and downs with this group. Now we're in another down. There is an increase in the needles discarded carelessly everywhere. The collection people are actually reporting more needles now than before. And I blame us, the people who elected the officials who allowed this to flourish and continue. And Dean, I'd love to have a conversation with you about this situation, as I am a victim of one of these needles myself. Yes, when you focus on something and constantly put it down, it does tend to make people angry and drive them away. But if you ignore the problem, it just gets progressively worse. I would love to thank the police department, CSET, and Officer Gagnon. I had an issue with a couple of camps in Cooper's Gulch, which I patrol, and I try to keep it clean and keep people out, and they took care of it immediately. I went through the system as I've been told. It worked this time, and I was informed that they need 72 hours to tell these people that they have to go. That's not right, because then they get feisty with the neighbors and they start throwing garbage around. The dead raccoon was also removed, thank God for that. But as I say, I've seen people become less and less involved and more insular. They stay behind their doors and they don't come out. I think what we need to do as a community is start coming back together and start working on these issues instead of yelling about them and screaming and putting them down. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for the efforts that you have made. Let's continue to try to uplift this town, as you call it, because it literally is a gorgeous place to live, and I don't want to go anywhere else. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name's James Graham. Congratulations to you, sir. I really liked what that CSET sergeant said. That was very promising. And what those two ladies said was pretty cool, too. Now I think you just need to work on shutting down Hatcher. If you got board members over there talking about they're on drugs themselves, handing out syringes, you got a problem there. One of the board of directors or board members over there, I won't even mention the name, is clearly on Facebook with a quote saying some of the board members' children were not firing up correctly. It was a crying shame. I had to teach them how to do it properly. Anybody can find that anywhere on there and find out who wrote it. I mean, that's sickening. And I don't want to gross anybody out, so I'm not going to get into it, but boofing devices recommended by Hatcher is ridiculous. If your veins go bad, they want you to use a boofing device. That's just gross. And anybody that don't know what that is can look it up on Google, because I'm not going to tell you. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening, Council, Mayor. Welcome, Mr. Lauder. My name's Jenna Katzos, and I just want to wish you all a Happy New Year. And thank you for your continued service for this wonderful city. Excuse me. I've only lived here for 5 years, but I absolutely call this place home, and I love everything about it. And watching those presentations earlier tonight was really inspiring to me to see all the things that this community is doing. And I realize that there's so much that all of you are doing as well that doesn't go recognized. And so I want to thank you for all the things that you're doing as well for this community. And I also want to recognize that all of these different approaches that different community organizations are taking are valuable. And I think that everything that everyone is doing is picking apart this problem in different ways. These problems, I mean, there's more than one. And I love the fact that we have this diverse approach, and we have public and private organizations, nonprofit organizations doing this work. And I just want that perspective to be heard as well. So Happy New Year. Thank you for your continued service. I realize that it's a slog, it's a marathon, and it takes a ton of energy. And keep going. You're doing great.
Thank you. Do we have any? No clapping. Thank you. Any other public comment? Alrighty, seeing none, I will bring it back to. Oh, we do have one more. This is for a non-agenda item?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Welcome. Happy New Year to all of you. I actually want to reiterate what folks were saying about problems. If you don't see the problem, you cannot do anything about it. So that's that. And I also want to thank the woman that just spoke so eloquently about all the things that are happening. I want to add to that it was so good to hear people say that people that are down on their luck or without finances actually have a joy of being helpful, because that's what I found when I was at the sleeping sites, that people did want to help and people did want to be involved. And so it was just a joy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Going once? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back, and we will move on to public hearings. So item A1 on the agenda, I would like to invite up Senior Planner Kristen Getz.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. It's nice to see you. Happy New Year. Before you this evening is a Q qualified combining zone text amendment that we are proposing to make to the coastal portion of the Eureka Municipal Code. Q zones are intended to be site specific. They're added onto base zoning, so the CS or the residential zoning that might already be there, we would add the Q onto that zone district. It's intended to restrict uses that can be allowed on the site, and it also can place limitations on those types of uses. In order to add a Q to a parcel, you would need to do a zone reclassification, and if you're in the coastal zone, then of course you have to do a local coastal program amendment. So a couple of examples of where you might use a Q zone. If we were in a service commercial zone district, we might add a Q to a property for a motel to restrict them to not having any more than 18 rooms, as an example. That would potentially, if they were surrounded by residential uses, that would limit the potential impacts from the motel on those residential uses. If we were in a light industrial zone district, maybe we want to add a Q to a parcel that says they can't have any medical or dental offices on that particular parcel for some reason. Or if we were in the waterfront commercial zone district, maybe we want to allow a meeting hall, but again, because of disruption in the neighborhood, we might want to limit that to a maximum of 50 persons. So Q zones can make principal uses, can allow principal uses, or they can change principal uses to conditional uses. So let's say that we wanted to, for whatever reason, change a bar and a restaurant and make them conditionally permitted uses instead of a principally permitted use. Applying a Q zone to the property could allow us to do that. However, what a Q zone cannot do is take a conditionally permitted use and make it a principally permitted use. Can't go the other way. So staff is recommending that you hold a public hearing and that you waive reading and read by title only and introduce Bill 975 to allow a Q combining zone district, to add that text to the municipal code. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Do you have any questions? Councilmember Castellano.
Okay. Let's see. Hello. It's good to see you again. So just a couple questions about process for establishing Q zones, if when we enact this. So at that point, and this is for the public to understand, but also just for me to really grasp this too, it would first that would go to the Planning Commission, and then would it always come to, so on page 4 of the actual ordinance, then it says in the section where it describes that it would come to the council, it says it may affirm, reverse, or modify a decision of the Planning Commission. Does that mean that only if there's a contentious issue would it come before the council, or would it necessarily always come before the council following the Planning Commission?
It would always come before the Planning Commission, or excuse me, from the Planning Commission to the City Council. That language in there about using the word may means that the council may do one of those things.
Okay, perfect. So I thought, but I just wanted to be absolute.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, I will open it up for public comment. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, I will bring it back for comments or motion. Councilman Allison.
I'll make a motion to waive reading and read by title only and introduce Bill number 975-CS, approving the text and local coastal program amendment, adding a Q qualified combining zone district to Title 10, Chapter 5 of the Eureka Municipal Code.
I'll second that. All right. Did you catch that? All in favor? Oh, wait, discussion? I didn't think so. Okay, all in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I will invite, I believe, is Ms. Savage here. She is our planner to talk to us about the text and local coastal program amendment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, Happy New Year. We have a text and local coastal program amendment for you tonight. Project description is to increase the building height in the CS coastal zone from 35 feet to 55 feet. This will provide consistency with the inland service commercial zone. So it'll keep the heights the same between the inland zone and the coastal zone. Coastal service commercial zone district, there's over 320 parcels in that zone, totaling 242 acres roughly. Covers Eureka's downtown and Old Town, east of Myrtletown Avenue, Jacobs Avenue, the Harper Motors area, a portion of Indianola, a portion of the former Kmart building, which is kind of split right down the middle between coastal and non-coastal, and several strips along the west side of Broadway in southern Eureka. There's a map showing all the CS zones in Eureka in red. So the view shed, that was initially kind of a big concern, but buildings as tall as 100 feet are currently allowed in various zone districts between the CS zone and the bay. So there's already allowed taller buildings between the zone where we're proposing the height amendment and the bay. No additional impact to the visual resources. Scenic views will not be adversely affected because, like I said, there's already taller buildings there could potentially be taller buildings between there and the bay. And, okay, so here's a map showing all the different zones up against the CS zone in red. So the yellow zone is capped at 50 feet. That's kind of our core waterfront area, like the area right along the waterfront. Blue, 100 feet. You can see all the different blue areas where the building height is 100 feet. The green is 35 feet. And the white has no building height. So the density is not going to change. It's capped by the FAR. So it's not, you can't impact the properties anymore by building higher. It's, the FAR is the floor area ratio, and that's going to remain the same at 120% of the lot coverage. Overall, the maximum allowable density for the site will not change. A building could potentially cover the majority of the property to reach the FAR. So either you could spread out across the property, or you could go higher to reach the 120% FAR. Staff recommendation, hold a public hearing, waive reading, read by title only, and introduce bill number 976 CS, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Eureka, amending the implementation plan portion of the local coastal program to increase the building height limit from 35 feet to 55 feet within the coastal service commercial zone. Questions?
Councilmember Messner?
So I know we'd spent a lot of time on changing the codes for height. Is this because it's the separate section of the coastal that the Coastal Commission had to look at? And so I know that had kind of been set aside, those particular zones. Is this what we're coming back to now?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that. So we already pretty much had decided what we were going to do with these heights, but that was a portion we had to set aside because of the Coastal Commission still looking at it and approving it. Is that correct?
Right. This has been brought to us from an outside applicant, not the, go ahead.
Let me see if I can help here.
Thank you.
So you are correct. The inland portion of the zoning code has been adopted by council and it is in effect. On the CS inland portion, the height limitation for buildings is 55 feet now, up from 35. We have a private party who applied to do this text amendment and LCP amendment so that the height in the coastal zone, in the coastal CS zone district, would be the same as that on the inland. Does that help?
Yes. Does that, it doesn't change visual for, because we put a lot of time into that, making sure that the visual of the coastline and all of that would not be affected. And so the visibility, and so that does not affect this.
Obviously, if you build a building that's 55 feet tall instead of 35 feet tall, it is going to change the view, either from behind that building or even from that building. But if you're building taller, then that view is probably going to get a little better from that building. Also, if there's buildings that are 35 feet in front of you, you're going to be above those buildings. So you're going to improve that view. In most instances, from behind where a building might be looking towards the bay, there's already buildings or other structures or trees or, those kinds of barriers. So for the most part, we don't believe that the view shed is going to change dramatically. And in some cases, it will improve from a taller building.
Okay, because I know that we were intentionally stair-stepping from the coast up. Mm-hmm. So I just was wanting to make sure we aren't undoing that.
We are not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Councilmember Castellano?
So this, once it's enacted, would the applicants need to go before the planning commission in order to build a taller building, or would there be any notice given to the surrounding neighbors of the area?
Once it's enacted and it goes in, and it's approved, they can build a building up to 55 feet.
Okay.
They might need a CDP depending on what they're building.
Okay.
Any other questions? And does this have to go through the Coastal Commission at all?
Yes,
Okay, so now it's going here, and then it still is going to have to go to them after this?
correct.
Okay, no more questions? Then do we have any comments from the audience on this issue?
Hi, my name is Beth Burks, and I am with Laco Associates, and we are the agents for the project. So we just wanted to let you know that we're here available to answer questions. Also, and thanks staff for their work. We found the staff report to be very thorough and appreciate the recommendation. And I did want to note that because it is in the coastal zone, we would anticipate that any future application would require a coastal development permit, and that would make sure that there's compliance with the visual protection standards that are already within the LCP. Thanks. And I'll stand by if there's any further questions.
All right. Do we have any other comments from the audience?
The stair-step thing, you must have put something in to the codes on the inland side to allow for that. So the question that I have is, does this mirror what you did in the outside? And I think the answer was yes. The other thing is, it's back and forth. Making a taller building means that you will have more open space, and they'll be less congested. What I'm saying is, down on the street, you'll have more space. It won't be so right up to the thing. On the other hand, a taller building, there are lots down in Old Town where I am sure you would not want a 5-foot building. 5 foot, 5 stories, sorry about that, building. So I trust that it will all work out in the end, that this is an attempt to balance those needs, but I just wanted to reiterate and restate those concerns. Thanks.
Do we have any other public comment? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back for comments. Council Member Allison.
I'll make a motion to waive reading, read by title only, and introduce bill number 976-CS, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Eureka amending the implementation plan portion of local coastal program to increase the building height limit from 35 feet to 55 feet within the Coastal Service Commercial Zone District.
I'll second that.
All right, do we have any discussion? All right, Council Member Castellano.
So this is the first time since I've been on council that ordinances specifically about the local coastal program have come up or come before me. So it's been interesting to start to think about this and it was the first time really that the list of goals and policies from the local coastal program has also come up. And I just want to, and that this document has been cited for several things throughout this particular council agenda. And just that I think I'm glad that we're starting to address and kind of bring this in alignment with some of the other zoning codes changes that we've made. And, I do think that the city has some wrestling to do with environmental changes and our real dependence on the coast as, you know, or thus far, our dependence on the coast is part of our identity and where we really reside and live and work. So, you know, I just want to speak to that, and that I think I'm curious to see how the conversation develops, and to have a really meaty conversation about that, because, you know, they're big things that, you know, we're really thinking about nation globally, really. So here we go in our small way. So thank you.
All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
3 yes votes. Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to item A3. It looks like I have senior planner Kristen Getz and Swan Asbury, it looks like, is going to be helping with that. This is the Crowley Site Local Coastal Program Amendment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let's see here. I need my notes to show. Is there a way to show the notes? No? Okay. Well, tonight I'm going to be doing a presentation on the local coastal program amendment to the Crowley site. So just kind of big picture tonight, we're going to be changing the zoning and the land use designation and adding a Q qualified combining district that you guys just went for. So how did we get here tonight? In 2017, the Betty Chin Foundation was gifted 11 construction trailers, and there was the condition that they needed to be moved by the donor site by November 1st, 2017. So the foundation collaborated with Housing Humboldt for a housing strategy, some traditional transitional housing, and the city identified and analyzed 12 different sites and decided they landed on the North Crowley site. So here's a map showing the North Crowley site. It's that small purple parcel up at the top, and it's on Hillficker Lane, and you can see Humboldt Bay Fire Training Grounds is below it, and then way farther down is the wastewater treatment plant. And here's a photo of the site. Those are the construction trailers, and you can see the training grounds in the background there. So staff went forward and started a LCP and lot line adjustment, but then adjacent stakeholders came forward, and it was decided to move the site instead of the North Crowley site to the South Crowley site. So previously when this was discussed, I think you probably were familiar with the North Crowley site, but tonight we're just talking about the South Crowley site. So here's a map showing where both sites are. The smaller one up at the top is the North Crowley site. You have the Humboldt Bay Fire Training Grounds, and then the South Crowley site and the wastewater treatment plant. Here's a photo of the South Crowley site, and if you turn to the right, the wastewater treatment plant, and to the left, the Humboldt Bay Fire Training Grounds. So tonight we're talking about changing the zoning from coastal dependent industrial MC to service commercial, and the land use from public quasi-public to general service commercial. Here's a map showing the current zoning of MC and the proposed zoning of CS. And you can see across the railroad tracks here, that's that blue. You can see that there's other CS nearby. And then the current land use map of PQP will be changing it to general service commercials. This is the proposed land use map, which will be similar to the other sites, the zoning on the other side. So this item went to the Planning Commission. It was approved on October 14th, but we received feedback from the Humboldt Baykeeper and the Coastal Commission. So we went back on November 13th and we added a Q qualifying combining district. And this is the updated version of the map with CS-Q. So let's talk about the uses that will be allowed with this Q combining district. These will be principally permitted uses. They'll include multifamily, multi-unit, single-story residential uses permitted under permitted uses in the RM districts for not more than 40 individual persons. Public utility and public service infrastructure, including but not limited to pumping stations, power stations, equipment buildings and installations, drainage ways and structures, storage tanks and transmission lines, storage yards for commercial vehicles, temporary seasonal uses such as Christmas tree lots, towers and other support structures, commercial satellite dishes, antennas and equipment buildings necessary for the specific facility subject to the provisions of Article 31, and wireless telecommunication facilities located more than 150 feet from an R district subject to wireless telecommunication facility permit issued pursuant to Article 31 of this chapter. Before I go forward on the limitations, we did get feedback that people were concerned about our inclusion of wireless telecommunication facilities and possibly cell towers. And the reason we included it is we thought it made sense with the tall fire, training ground fire tower. It would be principally permitted on the other side of the railroad tracks. And basically we just wanted to keep the site viable for other uses going forward. So that was our reasoning behind it. The limitations that will be included: all structures will comply with the flood hazard area regulations contained in the Eureka Municipal Code. Structures will be constructed to allow relocation or removal if necessary. And prior to commencement of any use, including future uses, the owner-manager of each use will develop, implement, and enforce a tsunami evacuation plan. A copy of the tsunami evacuation plan and any new or updated evacuation plans must be provided to any and all tenants and employees on the site of the use and to the Development Services Department. Also, we received more feedback from the Coastal Commission. They had some minor language changes, so staff will be reviewing those changes and then we'll bring them back before adoption. And I have a suggested motion for you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Seeing none, I'll open it up to public comment. Do we have anybody? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Roland Richmond, and I'm here on behalf of the Betty Quan Chin Homeless Foundation to commend and thank the city for its support of foundation programs. We value our relationship with the city and could not do what we do without city support, of which we are very grateful. City Manager Sparks was incredibly supportive of our organization. All indications are that City Manager Lauder will be the same, and we look forward to continued cooperation between our two entities. The proposed trailer community on Hillficker Lane would allow us to further expand our programs by allowing clientele to establish rental history and thereby qualify for permanent housing. This is an essential component to assist our vulnerable population to transition to successful long-term housing, the first goal toward becoming a productive member of society. We have a proven track record of success at the Betty Chin Village on Washington Street, and even the original doubters agree that we have been a very good neighbor within the surrounding community. Continuing the successful relationship with our neighbors would be a top priority for any new location as well. And if you haven't done so, I would invite anyone to arrange for a tour and see for yourself what a remarkable and successful program we are proud to offer. Thank you again for your invaluable support. We hope to be able to establish our new village as soon as possible, and your support is critical. Thank you, and for those of you who don't know who our leader is and the hardest worker in the Betty Chin Foundation, she is standing back here. It's been my great pleasure to work with her as a member of the board now for several years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Of course.
Could you restart by time? Could I, yeah, it says 2, 3. Do you mind giving me 3 minutes to speak? Thank you. I would like to heartily repeat all the praise for Betty Chin. My comments are about the coastal commission, the coastal zone, and about a zoning issue. Your coastal zone needs to be updated. And this site between the fire training grounds and the waste treatment facility was the first site that was brought to you in October of 2017. It was brought to you to add it to the crisis shelter declaration. Then in February 2018, City Development Services Director reported to you that an emergency coastal development permit had been issued for the northern site on Hillficker. This allowed the site to be graded and graveled prior to moving the trailers there. The northern site was also on 2 council agendas in May 2018. The hearing to amend the LCP, or coastal president, was continued at the last meeting, then pulled and not discussed. There may be problems with the site. I have it written down. I'm going to move forward, though. The trailers are now sitting on a site that was graded, graveled, and is a 1/4 mile closer to a bus stop than the site that you're considering. More than 2 years have passed since this site was selected. Since then, a number of sites have been identified in the housing element, some of them with bus stops on adjacent sidewalks. Zoned residential, they would require no zoning change. I have for you a map, and I'm not sure, it's different than yours. I got it off your site, but at one point, this whole strip was public, quasi-public. And then, but when the one that you passed has a square for this one. I have some questions here you might want to ask the staff, but I ask you to consider newly identified sites or leave the trailers where they are, and that the zoning conform to the area zoning if left on Hillficker. Do not change it. I mean, how do I say that? Make it all public, quasi-public, instead of having this one site have a different zoning. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment on this?
Good evening, council members. My name is Stevie Luther, and I wanted to speak in support of this zoning change and applying the Q zone. Eureka has a need for an array of housing developments, and especially for low-income and very low-income populations. So I support making the decisions to move this project forward as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? All right, seeing none, I will come back for comments here. Councilmember Messner.
So it's, I was here when all of this has taken place. We've kind of been through this the last couple years. And I know that the fire department truly did want the south site. It was more desirable for them, was my recollection. I think that is true, and there were a number of reasons why that site was originally desirable. And seeing as the applicant as well sees that as a desirable place, I would like to make the motion to waive read by title only and introduce bill number 972-CS, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Eureka, amend the land use plan map and the implementation plan map of the local coastal program. Eureka, LCP, to cause parcel 019-271-004 to be zoned service commercial and have a land use designation of general service commercial, and to add a qualified or Q zone combining district designation. Am I reading the right thing? Oh, you're questioning me.
You're reading the staff recommendation. I made
Okay.
you a more concise motion, but you're doing great. So thank
I'm
you.
just looking at what's on my paper. The Q designation will specify the principally allowed uses and limitations on uses for the site.
I'll second that, and I'd also just like to comment that to me I was ready to support this back in 2017 when this first came before us, and there's some growing pains in trying to get the public to understand what Betty Chin was trying to do, as well as what the city was trying to do. The location was contested for quite some time, and that really set things back, quite unfortunately to me. And I don't want to delay this any longer, because this should have been up and running a year ago. And so I'm ready to support this project. I think it's something that's really good and promising for the community, especially for people who are trying to seek regular housing but need to build up a rental history before they can, and things like that. So I definitely see there's a large need for this, and just want to thank the community. No sticks in the mud showed up for this, so really, really happy about that.
I'm very excited about this.
All right, and Councilmember Castellano.
Let's see. I also had a couple questions, so maybe I'll ask those too. But I mean, generally, I am enthusiastic for this project. But I was curious. My understanding is that there's already a transportation component as part of the project that's planned, so that people who are residing there will have transportation to Eureka and to work and things like that. I see Betty nodding in the back. So do you want to speak to that, or just give a thumbs up? Or
First, congratulations and welcome you and your family to Eureka. We are a beautiful city here. Anyway, no, you talk about the bus, right? Go to work, right? That's what you're talking. I don't find any problem there, and we are ready. Like you say, I don't want to delay anymore. People really waiting for the house, and all they want to quit it. And then we housing the people on CSET team, and then we housing the helping Humboldt too. So we need it. Please don't delay anymore. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And let's see, and this question is purely for my own edification. In terms of the zoning choice, I'm just curious if it could have been zoned multifamily, even for like a time period or something, or why this particular zoning was chosen.
It's because it was was nearby, so it'd be similar to the uses allowed nearby. And we wanted to have the housing have some conditions on it.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I was just when I was like, oh, there's from like a planning perspective, like how do you make those choices and when they get to us?
This allows more uses ultimately.
Great. Oh, and one more question. If there were, for instance, a cell tower that wanted to be put into place, that would come before the Planning Commission and Council. So it could be addressed at that time.
Yes. So none of the uses are actually, no one is proposing to do any of the uses, and all of them would be, would trigger a coastal development permit and would need to go to the Planning Commission and possibly the City Council.
Thanks. And just in terms of, I mean, I also want to commend staff and the Betty Chin Foundation for I know just many, many months of community outreach that was part of developing this project, with, people in the neighborhood. And so I think it really speaks to the time you took to develop that there aren't a lot, like naysayers here because you did the work prior to bringing it before council. So thank you very much for that.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had some discussion, so all in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
Congratulations. I kind of feel bad that Greg's not here. I know he was like waiting and waiting. But he was the one that he's the one that taught you that sometimes it doesn't get done on your watch. All right. Fee schedules. We could probably do this pretty quickly. Good evening, Director Millar.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to propose changes to the 2019-20 fee schedule. These are not citywide changes. These are specific to the Community Services Department. Many of these changes have to do with park rentals, as well as the operational changes at the zoo. Attachment A was provided with the agenda item that went through each change in detail. And if you would like any more information, Director Slattery is available for questions.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, I will open it up for the public hearing. Do we have anybody in the audience who wants to speak to the fee schedule? Nobody wants to challenge Miles on anything? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back. Councilmember Messner.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt the attached resolution of the City Council of the City of Eureka establishing various fees and service charges within the City of Eureka.
Second that.
Oh,
That's okay. Let Councilor Castellano get one. That's fine.
Austin's been on fire tonight.
It's okay.
I'm just trying to be
All
as
right. Do
efficient
we
as
have any
possible.
discussion on this item? All right, all in favor?
Well, I have a. I'm sorry. I have so many thoughts. I just want to remind people that though the rates for the rates for the zoo may go up, there are free passes available at the public library that can be checked out and make use of them.
Nice comment. I like to remind people about that. All right, all in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
Very nice. Now we will move on to the consent calendar. I do not hear, do we have anything that anybody wants to pull from the consent calendar of our 2 items? All right, do I have a motion to approve it?
I'm going to make a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, all in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
Excellent. And it's just about 8 o'clock. We're going to get into ordinances and resolutions, and that's kind of a little longer. So why don't we take a little break, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes.
I was going to introduce the item.
Excellent, thank you.
I even told Chief Watson that he should stick around to answer questions. Oh, good. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So this ordinance would do two things. First, it would repeal our existing solicitation ordinance. And second, it would add prohibition on aggressive and obstructive conduct. The first item, the removal of the solicitation ordinance. The solicitation ordinance has been challenged many times, not ours specifically, but everybody else's in recent years. And ultimately, the city attorney's office just decided that any solicitation ordinance at this point would likely result in a challenge, a legal challenge, and would likely be thrown out. So we are recommending repealing that altogether. However, we did still want to give the police department and the police officers some tools to combat aggressive behavior and obstructive conduct. And so this ordinance would do that without running afoul of First Amendment issues. So I'm happy to answer questions, and if you have any questions for the chief, I'm offering him up as well.
Alrighty, Councilmember Messner.
Sounds like being skewered. So I would like to ask a question that came up with the council regarding that first paragraph. In the increase, it says, the city council finds that an increase in aggressive and obstructive conduct throughout the city has become unsafe, disturbing, and disruptive to residents, businesses, and visitors to the city of Eureka, and it kind of goes on. And we had discussed possibly changing the has to can. Can become unsafe, and wondered if there would be a problem with that in the chief's perspective or in the legal side of things to maybe tie our hands too much or something, or if that would be a change that might be possible.
In other words, you're wondering whether or not there has actually been an increase in recent memory, or if we could just say that aggressive and obstructive conduct is unsafe, rather than putting a sort of a time specific.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to ask the chief. He would know whether or not there's been an increase. I think if it's true, then it would help to explain why this ordinance is being put in place. If it's not necessarily an increase, then I think the language without that would be legally sufficient. Yeah.
I don't have any hard statistics in front of me. It would be more anecdotal and observational, but certainly we've heard enough from the community at these meetings and on social media over the past several years in particular, where people at least have the perception that this problem has increased. I don't have an issue with the verbiage as long as it doesn't weaken the authority of the ordinance. If you were to put something like, but such conduct also creates an enhanced sense of intimidation and fear, that is true, it does.
Yeah, I think the word create might actually be a better word. Creates, unsafe, disturbing, replacing the has become with creates unsafe. I kind of like that too, but I appreciate you answering that question, because I think that was one of the concerns the council had, was the statement may be, may create almost that fear, put your children behind closed doors. I think, hurry, close everything up. And, but we are trying to address some things. And so we'd like to still make it strong so it doesn't weaken anything. So I appreciate your help with that.
I mean, my recommendation would just be to take out a couple of words and make it simpler, but keep it as strong by saying the city council finds that aggressive and obstructive conduct throughout the city is unsafe, disturbing, and disruptive, or can, as you said, can become unsafe.
Unsafe, creates unsafe, disturbing.
And
so if it said conduct.
That wouldn't work with the rest of the sentence, I'm afraid.
Oh.
So we can, I mean, I'm happy to workshop this a little bit and bring it back next time. If you know, you guys are making the finding, so if you're uncomfortable with the language because you're not sure there's actually been an increase, or you're worried that it would, you know, create some fear, then we'll workshop it.
Councilmember Castellano.
I don't necessarily feel a need to workshop it beyond this. I mean, to me, the city council finds aggressive and obstructive conduct throughout the city, becomes unsafe, disturbing, and disruptive to residents, businesses, etc. Works for me if it seems to maintain the strength of the overall ordinance. Do other council members?
Well, and I know this is just questions, so that's why I was trying to keep it as a question, but,
Right.
so.
Right, I mean, when, you know, when you make your motion later, you can say, we make our motion with, you know, with the intent that those couple of changes be made. And of course, this is coming back for a second reading, so.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? All right. Do we have any comments from the audience on this issue?
Yay. It is so wonderful to see that go away. In terms of becomes versus, if you say becomes, then does that give law enforcement some discretion in terms of when of enforcement? They can lay back on it, not, you know, unless it becomes a problem. That's just a thought. I don't know. Not my fellow walk. I wanted to also comment on some of the things that were said earlier in the meeting. I see some really good. Yes, it is. Thank you. So, so I see really good things, and one of the things how it relates to this is that you threw me off. Sorry. What is wonderful about this is that it applies across the board. And I can tell you, I have seen homeless people treated in very aggressive, horrible ways. And so I hope that what this means, from what I heard earlier in the meeting, is that the police will enforce this even-handedly. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back. And Councilmember Messner.
Yeah, I would like to make the motion and just change a little bit of language to say, whereas the city council finds that an increase in aggressive and obstructive conduct throughout the city is unsafe, disturbing, and just make that one change. And so I would make the motion to waive reading, read by title only, and introduce bill number 969 CS, an ordinance of the city in Eureka repealing section 130.06 of the Eureka Municipal Code regarding solicitation and adding section 130.11 to prohibit aggressive and obstructive conduct. With that one change.
I got it. Perfect, thank you.
Sorry, just to be clear, you're going to keep an increase in? Or were you going to take out the fine, or just were you going to keep it fines that aggressive and obstructive conduct?
Yes, I think that would be more clear if instead of an increase in, but just the city council finds that aggressive and obstructive conduct throughout the city is unsafe, disturbing.
Okay. That wasn't actually how you moved before, but if you want to amend your motion, I've got that now. Okay.
All right. So we have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any more discussion? All right. All in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to nominate Kim Burgell again. She was the finest Mayor Pro Tem, and if no one else wants to step up, I wouldn't mind having her do it again. I am not personally interested.
She has expressed interest to me, so it's not throwing her under the bus.
She didn't get voluntold.
So we have a nomination. Does anybody have any in second or another option? Do we vote on this? I think we vote on it, right? Okay. So we need a second.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
3 yes votes, Councilmember Arroyo and Burgell absent, motion carries.
Thank you very much. And now we have reached the point of the city manager report, but your big chunk of work came in earlier. So do you have anything to say at the end of your first meeting here?
Well, I think it went quite well. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Citizens of Eureka, I appreciate the opportunity to serve you, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity that you've entrusted to me, and I really want to thank you for that. You met Wendy, or got reacquainted with Wendy again tonight, and I'm sure you'll see her at future meetings because she does like to stay on top of the community in which we live and form her own opinions about all the different kinds of things that come before the city council, and it's one of the things that I really enjoy about going home after work is that I have somebody who's actually interested in talking about those things. So that's pretty exciting. Work's been great. Staff's been wonderful. I do feel like, I'm drinking from the fire hose on a lot of things just because I don't know a lot of names or people yet, and I need to get acquainted with different organizations we partner with, and I feel like I'm getting the geography down a bit, I don't need to drive with Waze every single time I leave the house, so that's nice. I survived Talk Shop last Friday and the Bi-Coastal Media interview process this morning. So I'm making the rounds, and I'm really enjoying it. So again, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for being here. And now it is time for council member reports. I will start with Council Member Allison. Do you have anything to report?
Yeah, there's something I wanted to bring up. So I have 1 year left on my term, and there's been a few things on the back burner, or things that I have got support from council on that have just been sitting on the back burner, and I want to bring them off the back burner and get ready to serve because company's over and we're hungry. So analogies, but one thing I really wanted to put out. Hopefully, by say like the last council meeting in February is a comprehensive RFP for broadband and municipal broadband. I see that as a really big component of future economic development in 2020 and 2030, and Eureka might have opportunities in that regard. So I know we're getting a possible new fiber optic lines running into the county, and I really want to see the aspect of municipal broadband at least studied and looked at. I have talked to the senator's office, and they are interested in trying to procure funds to help pay for this RFP. So really all I'm asking is that we put it on the agenda and just try and get something going, and maybe put like a 60-day timeline where someone could at least get a study going so that it'll help point staff and the council in the right direction moving forward if there is anything we can do. So like I said, I think we can procure funding from the state to help pay for this. There's really not much risk. We just need to, get stuff moving. So that's what I wanted to work on, at least this part of the year.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Messner.
All right. Well, I hope everyone had a great holiday. We had a wonderful holiday and actually stayed home for the first time in 10 years, which was awesome. And so glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're getting your feet wet in the community. It will take a little while, but it's a lot to consume at once, but appreciate your jumping right into, and happy that you guys are here. I do just want to let people know about the Climate Action Plan public workshop that is on January 15th, Wednesday night the doors open at 5, but the presentation's at 5:30, and that is at the Warfinger Building, 1 Marine Way. So just letting the public know about that, making sure that you're aware of that and can come take part in that public workshop. But that's all I have for
Thank
now.
you very much. Yeah, everybody wasn't off, we weren't gallivanting the last few
We
weeks.
were all celebrating holidays.
Councilmember Castellano.
Yeah, I also spent most of the last period of time celebrating the holidays and kind of embarking on some personal projects, which I won't bother you with right now, but I'm excited about. I'm excited for this upcoming public meeting because it's a city-county collaboration, and so I think that's just a really interesting way of approaching this. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, welcome, and look forward to more.
And with that, I believe this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Awards, gold stars to the ones who stayed through the whole thing.